Hello everybody, welcome back to the business of trucking. Today I want to talk about understanding IFTA. Now, IFTA is just your international fuel tax agreement. It's just an agreement between the states and Canada and Mexico to provide assistance between the states in distributing and filing fuel tax quarterly for trucking companies. Now, understanding this thoroughly can help provide you with additional savings on fuel and really help drive down your fuel cost and maximize your purchases. So there's really a couple things to it. One, if you're responsible for your own fuel taxes, if you're an independent or you just file your own, it's really helpful to understand this. It's one of the most misunderstood things in trucking. So I'm going to break it down, hopefully here, simplify it so that it's a lot easier to understand. Now, if you're at least to a carrier and they file your taxes for you, maybe you don't so much need to know. But now there's a couple different ways that can happen. Do they file and pay your fuel tax for you? Did they deduct money from your settlement? Do they cover everything? Are they, how are they doing it? You need to find out what they're doing so that if they are deducting money, you can, kind of even that out and help yourself out, get better fuel prices. And if you're entitled to a refund, have you ever got the refund? Do you audit to make sure that they're doing it properly and ask for a copy of your fuel tax? Every company is going to do a little bit different. So it's just important to find out and understand how it works. Now, I've done a diagram behind me to help kind of simplify this and break it down. And later on in the video, I'm going to show you how to use this understanding of fuel tax to your advantage to get the best deals on fuel you could possibly get. Okay, now fuel taxes, it's important to understand that fuel taxes are filed quarterly. So they're based on three primary things: your average fuel economy, the gallons purchased in each state, and the gallons used in each state. So kind of the most important of the three is the gallons used in each state. We're gonna discover here that what you purchase in each state doesn't matter all that much. So this may be contrary to what a lot of people believe or have been taught, but I'm going to show you and prove it out for you here. Now, I simplified this in the way that we're going to say for the whole quarter. Now, these numbers are the same no matter how much more you do. You just have to deal with bigger numbers. For the quarter, we're going to say that you did a trip from Green Bay, Wisconsin to Detroit, Michigan. That's your whole quarter, start to finish. This is just for simplified purposes. Now you can notice this beautifully illustrated map of 4 states here. You got Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. Okay, now we're starting in Green Bay. There's a lot of numbers up here, but try not to skip ahead because I want to explain this in order here so it makes some sense. Otherwise, I don't want to confuse you. We're going to put on 180 miles in Wisconsin, 78 miles in Illinois, 46 miles in Indiana, 210 miles in Michigan. That'll be our whole world for this quarter's filings. So, our average fuel economy is going to be 7 miles per gallon. And how do we figure that? Well, the same way you figure all your other fuel economy: miles driven versus gallons purchased or used, I should say. All right, so we know our mileages, we know our miles per gallon. Now, knowing our mileages, we need to know how many gallons of fuel we burned in each state. So, at 7 miles per gallon, 180 miles in Wisconsin, we burned 25.71 gallons of fuel in Wisconsin. We burned 11.14 gallons of fuel in Illinois, 6.57 gallons of fuel in Indiana, and 30 gallons of fuel in Michigan. Okay, we've established that number. Now we need to know the fuel tax rate in each state. So in Wisconsin, our fuel tax is 32.9 cents per gallon. Illinois, 61.6 cents per gallon. Indiana, it's 49 cents a gallon. Michigan, 41.6 cents per gallon. So, if we take 30 gallons times 0.416 cents per gallon, Our tax liability in Michigan for this quarter is $12.48. So if we do the same thing here in Indiana, our tax liability is $3.22. Illinois, our tax liability will be $6.86. And in Wisconsin, our tax liability will be $8.46. Okay, so now we know what we will owe for each state. Now we have to see where we purchased fuel. So we're going to do two different scenarios here just to show you how this can work different ways. So if we buy scenario one, if we buy 75 gallons of fuel in Illinois, we take 75 gallons times our fuel tax rate, it's 61.6 cents per gallon. We pay $46.20 in fuel tax for the quarter. That's what we paid by purchasing 75 gallons in the state of Illinois. So obviously we overpaid for the state of Illinois because we only owe $6.86. So what will happen in our quarterly filing through a formula, it will show that we overpaid. So that overpayment will be distributed to the states where we underpaid or didn't pay anything. Okay? So if you add up our liability in each state, for the quarter we only owed a total of $31.02. Right here, that's our total tax liability for the quarter. But we paid $46.20. We overpaid, we distributed, we still covered everything, and we still have money left over. So $46.20, our total liability, minus $31.02, our total tax paid. In scenario one, gives us a refund of $15.18, which you will get back in a check as a refund. Let's look at a different scenario here. Scenario two, instead of buying 75 gallons in Illinois, we buy 75 gallons in Wisconsin. So 75 gallons times our 0.329 cents per gallon tax rate gives us $24.68 of total tax that we paid towards our liability of $31.02 total. So we didn't pay enough. So there's no extra money to distribute amongst the states. So what we'll do at the end of the quarter, right here, we will owe $6.34, which we will pay to our home state, which in my case is Wisconsin. When I send that money to Wisconsin, they will distribute it out to where we owe money. It's really that simple. So if I lost you, just kind of go back and rewatch this a couple times and you'll kind of start to get it, okay? Now, by understanding this, you'll eventually come to the conclusion that where we buy our fuel doesn't matter so much, tax-wise, I'm saying, okay? And we're going to prove that out here in a second with another illustration. It has more to do with where you burn your fuel, okay? Now this $31.02 total liability for the quarter for all these states, where you buy your fuel does not change that. That's a solid number. That's, okay? What you pay throughout the quarter will be different based on where you buy, you know, and this end number here will be different, but it's a static number. It's a static liability. Just because the amount you pay changes, the amount you owe total does not change. So whether you owe at the end of the quarter or whether you get a refund at the end of the quarter, this number was the same. So don't be so concerned about where you buy your fuel throughout the quarter to offset your fuel tax, because the tax is the same. You're just paying it differently, okay? But rest assured, you're paying the same number. So focus more, what I'm going to show you in a second. Let's focus more on getting the best deal on fuel versus worrying about this, whether you're going to owe or pay. Because honestly, this really doesn't matter all that much. And that's probably going to not make sense to a lot of people, But just keep reviewing this and you'll understand it goes totally against what a lot of people have been taught, especially some of the drivers that have been in this since back before IFTA. This teaching would go totally contrary to that, but IFTA changed all that. So let me rework this board here. Oh, incidentally, if you're looking to pay less fuel tax, really the only way you're going to accomplish that is either don't drive or better fuel economy. Burning less fuel will trigger less tax liability in each state. So let me rework this board and I'll show you how to get better deals on fuel. Alright, I'm back. I reworked this on the board behind me. We're going to go over some fuel prices here. And first, before we do that, let me just say, if you're an owner-operator leased to a carrier and you have absolutely zero responsibility for fuel taxes, then this doesn't really apply to you. You know, if they don't withhold, if you never have to pay at the end of the quarter, if you don't get money back, if they say, hey, we got this, you don't have to worry about it, then you just buy the cheapest fuel you can get your hands on. Is the best way for you to do things. Now, if you're on the other side of that, and this does apply to you, and you still don't quite believe for, right now that fuel tax doesn't matter, just blindly accept that for a minute while we go over this, okay? Now, there's some assumptions here. We're going to do the 4 states that we went through, and we're going to use the national average pricing for that state for the day that this video was made. It's important to know too that these tax rates change all the time. So quarterly, it's a good idea to update yourself on any tax rate changes. As of the making of this video, they are accurate to the first quarter of 2020. So that's important to know. And let's take a look at this here. This is the average pump price in each state, cash price, according to the Department of Energy, okay? Now you may get discounts. Let's set that aside for just right now. We'll come back to that in a second. We're just going to use the cash price for a fair comparison in each state. So you can see right off the top of the bat that Indiana is the highest pump price, okay? Followed by Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin. So, for right now, Indiana is the most expensive. Now, knowing that fuel tax doesn't matter, okay, or just accepting that for a moment, the only fair way to compare price of fuel is to take off the tax. Okay, we call that X tax. You want to know the X tax price of your fuel. So you take the pump price minus the fuel tax, so $2.48 minus 61.6 cents per gallon, gives us what's called our X tax price. So for Illinois, you end up with $1.86. Indiana, $2.04. Wisconsin, $1.72. In Michigan, $2.01. Okay? This is the number we want to concern ourselves with, is the X tax price. So, Illinois was $2.48 per gallon, higher than Michigan. But when you take out fuel tax, look how much lower the fuel is in Illinois than Michigan. Well, before this was higher. So it goes to show that the highest price at the pump is not always the most expensive fuel. Okay? This is the key to the reason why I say people that want to say, oh, I'm traveling through 10 states, I want to stop in each state and get a little bit of fuel in each of them to cover the fuel tax. Well, no. You might be paying way too much for the fuel. See that? The big difference after X tax, 15 cents a gallon. That's a fairly substantial difference. And because our tax rate, our tax liability, is still that $31, it doesn't matter if we pay that on Illinois fuel or if we pay that on Indiana fuel or what, because it gets distributed. Okay? So concern yourself, even if you come to the understanding that this is over, I still really don't get this, and I think this guy's wrong. first of all, I'd encourage you to study it a little more. Second of all, okay, just accept on blind faith maybe that the X-tax price is the price you want to be concerned with. All right? Because your tax liability is what it is. Doesn't matter if you pay it at the pump, pay it at the end of the quarter. The number is the same. Okay? It's based on the gallons you burn in each state and the miles traveled in each state. Okay? So, now knowing that, Wisconsin was the best deal before, and it's still the best deal. Okay? And then number 2, we go to Illinois, then Michigan, then Indiana. So kind of reversed from the pump price over here to the X-tax price. Now you say, well, okay, but discounts. And this is kind of where discounts would come into play. And people's discounts are wildly different. I can't even stand here and presume to know what your discounts are versus what my discounts are. So we're just gonna, make some stuff up. Big companies get different discounts at different chains, okay? Some of your companies might get their best deal at TA Petro. Some might get their best discounts at Love's. Some might get their best discounts at Pilot, okay? Let's say, for instance, or it could be based on per state, per region. It can be based on a lot of different things. So say you get 20 cents off a gallon at this fuel stop you're going to pass in Illinois. So that would bring you to $1.66. Say, in Gary, Indiana typically gives pretty good discounts for most people. Let's say you get I'm going to say you get 30 cents per gallon discount in Indiana. Wisconsin, I don't know. I'm just making numbers up here. I don't know what the math is going to come out to be. I'm just doing this in my head. So you get 15 cents a gallon, or say 10 cents a gallon in Wisconsin. Because my math isn't that fast. Michigan. Who goes to Michigan? We're going to say they don't get very good fuel discounts because, they're kind of out of the way. Unless you're going to Michigan, you don't really pass through Michigan, do you? So, 5 cents a gallon. So what does that do to our discounts now? Or our pricing now? Well, you put Indiana ahead of Michigan, didn't it? Put Wisconsin still is number 1. Illinois. So, just wanted to illustrate this. There's a lot of things to factor in. Your discount, it doesn't really matter if you take it off the pump price, then take the tax off to get your X price. Do it at the end. It's the same, okay? In my head, going down the road, I just kind of say $2.48 a gallon. I don't pay that. I pay $2.20 a gallon or whatever. Take the tax off of that, and do the same in Indiana. Come up with this X tax price for each state, and that's where I'll buy my fuel. Now, some quarters, at the end of the quarter, I'll owe $200. Sometimes, and seasonally and market-wise, different regions change drastically. There may be a glut of fuel in Illinois, so they may say big discounts, okay? Then I may be buying a lot of fuel in Illinois, and I may get a $200 rebate instead of owing $200 at the end of the quarter. But that really means nothing to me because my liability was still the same. It was still this $31 over here, okay? So don't get caught up so much in where you buy your fuel to cover your fuel taxes. You want to be concerned where to buy your fuel to get this best X tax price, okay? It can be substantial. I mean, look at this, 201 versus 186, that's 15 cents a gallon. On 100 gallon fill up, you're talking $15. Spread that over the duration of a quarter, 50, 60 fill-ups times $15, you're talking some pretty substantial money, okay? So it's worth learning. Once you understand it, you understand it, but it can be hard to explain it to people. So if you're still not quite getting it, go back and watch that first part of the video again. Watch this again, and just watch it over and over until you get it, and it can help you save a substantial amount of money on fuel. And I will also say that once you understand all of this in its entirety, you will probably know fuel taxes better than the person at your company that is doing fuel taxes.